Good morning, everybody. We invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing our opening song, When the Spirit Says Do. We'll sing this a couple of times, inserting a different word each time. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do, oh Lord. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. Sing, you've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing, oh Lord. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. Dance, you've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you've got to dance, oh Lord. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. Laugh, you've got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You've got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you've got to laugh, oh Lord. You've got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. Shout, you've got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You've got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you gotta shout, oh Lord. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. Do, you've gotta do when the Spirit says do. You've gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do.
Well, good morning, Julie. Thank you. I, for one, really appreciated that energy this morning. Good morning to everybody. And welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. And for those of you visiting this morning, welcome. We've got some visitors from around the nation, as is typical in the summer, so we're really glad you're here checking out another form of Unitarian Universalism, and we're glad for others who are visiting us from our community. We're glad you've chosen to spend part of your week with us here in the sanctuary, outside on the patio, or on our live stream. Welcome back if you're on campus for the first time in a while. And for those online, please join our virtual coffee hour, which will be held for 15 minutes after the service, so you can say hello. We will be serving refreshments after the service here down on our brick patio. We hope you'll join us there as well. Please do sign a visitor's card if you're visiting with us, either here on campus at the Rainbow Table after the service, if you didn't get a chance to do so before, or online as well. You can also sign up for our Newcomers Connecting series, which will begin again in September. I want to say that some of you know that I had the joy of the newest strain of COVID week before last. So I am masked today. I have tested I've been free of the virus for several days, but the protocol is 10 days masked. Day 10 is today. Yay! Very excited about that. So for those of you for whom this causes an accessibility barrier, and I know there are some, I apologize for that, and I would encourage those of you in the sanctuary to find a place where the sound is working the best for you. Those of you online, we remind you that there is captioning available if you watch the service through our YouTube channel. Just Google MDUUC and YouTube, and you can use the closed captioning there. So I've got a couple announcements this morning other than the state of my health. If you brought donations for our teacher care packages, please place them in the Borton Hall. Today is our last day for collecting those, and we hope you will put them on the tables in the Borton Hall. Our history discussion for today has been postponed, but if you're interested in participating, let me know after the service, and I'll make sure you get informed when we do that. And I want to say a very special announcement, which is that Ondine Young, who will be serving as our music director for this year, beginning next week, is here this morning and eager to say hello. And I want you to help me in welcoming Ondine. I want to also say that Ondine is sitting near Dan Barnhart, Maura Mattingly, and who are 2/3, along with Juan Contreras, of the incredibly diligent search committee that worked very hard to make sure that we will start the fall with Ondine on our staff. With all of that, I say welcome to this beloved community.
Good morning. I'm Janice Davis, a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to our service. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming faith community. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. This community exists because of the time, talent, and treasure that our members and friends share. Please check out the just-in-time section of our weekly email and our newsletter, and there's a just-in-time board in Borton Hall to connect and have you contribute to this congregation. The best way to learn about us is to sign a visitor's card online or at our umbrella table to receive our This Week at MDUUC email on Fridays. While we're no longer requiring masks, our expectation is that those who are inside are symptom-free. If you're visiting us and are interested in learning more about our children's programs, please leave your name at the welcome table in Borton Hall so our Director of Religious Education, Marina McGregor, can contact you. And welcome! It's good to be together.
Thank you, Janice. In the spirit of our service today, which is really about things being very large or very small, I invite you to exchange greetings with one another in either a very large or very small way. It's your choice. Let's exchange greetings.
Good morning. I am Linda Russell. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Our chalice lighting today comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. First, let us light the torch of our awareness and learn again how to drink tea, eat, wash dishes, walk, sit, drive, and work in awareness. We do not have to be swept along by circumstances. We are not just a leaf or a log in a rushing river. With awareness, each of our daily acts takes on a new meaning, and we discover that we are more than machines, that our activities are not just mindless repetitions. We find that life is a miracle, the universe is a miracle, and that we too are a miracle.
I'm going to invite those who are young among us and those young at heart as well to come forward today for our Time for All Ages. And I'm particularly grateful to Sage, who's going to assist me in our Time for All Ages this morning, as our wonderful Director of Religious Education, Marina McGregor, takes a needed week of rest. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how sometimes we need to be able to see what's really small in front of us, and sometimes we need to be able to see the bigger picture. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And there is a phrase about that called objects in the mirror are larger and smaller than they appear. So that's the theme of our story this morning. You might see that it's printed on some car mirrors as well. This is our time for all ages. So we begin with the small because you know, small is mighty. Here's an example of something that's small. Look at it really closely, everybody. Look at it really closely. What do you think it is? Because now, look at the next slide.
Let's see. Is it a bee or is it a pug?
Okay, well, how many people? You want to ask for votes?
Yeah, how many people, raise your hand if you think it's a bee. All right, and raise your hand if you think it's a pug. All right, I think the consensus is that it's a bee.
Which is right, yeah. It's good if we look at it really carefully. Let's look at the next one.
This is a hard one.
This is a hard one.
Do we think that
Next slide.
this is a hedgehog or a leaf?
Okay.
All right, raise your hand if you think it's a leaf. Okay. All right, and raise your hand if you think it's a hedgehog. Interesting. Which one is it?
It's a leaf. It's a leaf pretending to be a hedgehog. Okay, let's look at the next one.
All right, we have a number, it seems like. Let's see. Is it a number on a house, or is it maybe the number on a penny? Raise your hand if you think it's a number on a house. Okay, and raise your hand if you think it's a number on a penny. It's the penny, right?
Yeah, good job. Good job, everyone. Give yourselves a round of applause. Good job with that. Yeah. So that's about small being mighty. The next set is about big also being mighty. Sometimes we have to look at the big picture, and then we have to remember that the big picture is made up of individuals. So here's the big picture. And in that picture...
Can you see the one little guy?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's another big picture.
A lot of butterflies there.
Migration of butterflies. And then can you see?
Just the one.
And one more. This is a migration of people from Honduras, actually, who were migrating themselves as well. And in that picture, can you see the few, the individuals? So today we want you to think a little bit about how we think about what's small before us, the details, and what's also sometimes how we need to see the big picture. And that is our time for all ages today. Thank you to Sage for helping. And now Scott's going to help us sing you to your activities.
As you leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness will you learn light your hearts till you return.
Guess it's going to hang there. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Craven. My pronouns are she and her. I have come to realize that each moment is filled with joy and awe by my willingness to be fully present to what is happening. I wrote this statement last week to a question that I received from a stranger. What this means is that I put one foot in front of the other. I stay connected to what is happening in my heart and my body and even in my head, even though at times my head often betrays me by making up stories. My path to coming to this place has not been easy. It's been full of choices, interactions, and even mistakes that take me outside of my immediate experience. Given my family history, I found it safer to spend time in my mind, replaying the past and planning for what might happen in the future. And there were a three-year period where being in the moment was not safe. My thoughts allowed me to survive the chaos and violence that was present in my home. Now, this all changed in the spring of 1988. I was living in a small one-bedroom log cabin in the back of a house in East Oakland. I just ended a relationship with who I at that point thought was the love of my life. I needed something to help me get through the grief. My pain was so deep I couldn't even write in my journal, which I had been doing since I was 16. From a place of concern, a friend handed me this book, Seeking the Heart of Wisdom, The Path of Insight Meditation by Cornfield and Goldstein. That was a pivotal point in changing the course of my life. And I started my journey to not be in the past or in the future as a way of living, but to be in the moment and fully experience both the world around me and my various responses to that world. I read the book ferociously, and given my personality, I taught myself how to meditate. But eventually I started to share with others this practice, and they in turn shared with me the practices which allowed them to be connected to both the simple and the more complex. There was music, hiking, sitting by the ocean, massages, writing, climbing, and even talking to trees. This broadened my capacity to be in touch with spirit. Insight meditation continues to be my main practice. I start my morning with 10 minutes of focused meditation. However, the true gift of this was that at any moment I can use it. As I was vacationing this past week in Glen Ellen, I would walk outside my motel room, and immediately experience the subtle yet powerful sense in the air. The bay leaf, the eucalyptus, and the soil that is there for the growing of the grapes. A smile moved across my face, and I turned to my friend who at that moment said to me, "Can you smell that?" And we could share that moment, deepening our connection. It also helps me in those challenging times, the car that cuts me off, or that I hear criticism when someone is just asking me to make a change, or the rush of emotion that I heard this past week when Lahaina caught fire. With this practice, I take a second to discern what my mind is telling me is happening and what very well may not be. I am able to recognize truth, and in recognizing truth, I feel at ease. There is pure joy in just being in whatever truly exists. For me, this is my path to being a you. Therefore, I invite you to join me in worship today and connect to those ways that allows you to be with what is larger than your mind, your body, your emotions, and your personality. To connect with the more that exists within and all around us. Let us worship.
We invite you to please rise in body or spirit to sing our opening congregational song, Morning Has Broken. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sweet from the heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
This is the time in our service when we take into the larger collective heart of this loving community those joys and sorrows that are too great to hold alone. It is a time when we focus on the largeness of community. And I invite those who have written in our book of joys and sorrows who are with us physically in the sanctuary today to come forward when yours is called. I'm going to ask Patricia to light the first candle for Mary Nail. Mary writes, "My youngest brother Dave has been fighting esophageal cancer for over a year. In spite of aggressive treatments, the cancer spread, and Dave will be entering hospice. And Dave actually ended up dying this week. And so our thoughts are with Mary, who writes, we were a close family, and thoughts and prayers are requested after his transition." So we are thinking of you, Mary, hoping that you're watching and joining us virtually this morning. I'm asking Patricia to light another candle for Donald Sturkey. Donald remains in Kaiser Walnut Creek with complications from surgery, and he thinks he'll be there for a little bit more time. He went there and would welcome visitors and calls as well. If you are a friend of Donald's, please let him know that he is remembered today. So I would invite Bob Maxwell to come forward and light a candle. Bob writes, "Our little cat Rusty died unexpectedly Sunday before last. Rest in purr, Rusty." That's very sweet. And I want to light a candle for Annette and Ron Schmidt. Annette and Ron report that they are safe in their home in Maui, however, holding untold sorrow at the tragedies around them. They ask for your thoughts, emails and cards, but not calls unless that's something you regularly do with them. But they did want you to know that they are well. And we light a candle for Andrea Quigley, who has made it safely to New Jersey and her new home there. And Scott Schrader is lighting a candle this morning. He says, "I'm lighting a candle of joy and inspiration. Today marks 30 years of sobriety for me." Wonderful, Scott. Kendall and Sally Bartlett write that they are expecting a new baby in the family. Their son and daughter-in-law are due next April, and they are all thrilled. So that's great. We'll say that to them the next time we see them. And Patricia Craven lights a candle of joy for my daughter, who turns 26 today. "I celebrate her," she writes, "today and every day, as she is my greatest present, teaching me to be present in every moment." And Bob and Diane Olson, who I believe are here, are lighting a candle this morning. And they write, "Today we are celebrating our 57th wedding anniversary." It's definitely worth multiple candles. Thank you again, Bob and Diane. And I asked Patricia to light two final candles. One of them holds those joys and sorrows that are here within us, among us today, but not expressed in specific words. And the last holds our hopes and dreams for this one beautiful, imperfect, and challenging world of which we are a part.
We invite you to remain seated as we sing our meditation hymn, I Know This Rose Will Open. We'll sing this twice. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I invite you now to join me in the spirit of meditation and reflection and that deep ask known as prayer. I invite you to settle into this space, to become more fully present wherever you are in your own physical being, and just take a few minutes to allow us to connect at our deepest level together. On the days when the world seems too small, crowded in divisions, people acting from ignorance or dangerous self-interest, when we just need a little space to take in joy, we need to accept the gift of the present moment. And sometimes when the world seems too large, buffeted by forces that seem overwhelming, extreme heat, extreme weather, extreme politics, extreme selfishness, or when we are just plain tired and no longer want all of the weight on our shoulders alone, we need to unwrap the gift of the present moment. When we are lonely or scared or hurt, when we are grieving or dazed or disoriented by the events of our days, when we are disillusioned or angry or feeling betrayed, when we are content and contentment seems so fragile, when we are happy and we never want that giddy wonder to end, we may seek to change the size of the world around us just a little bit. Beauty is always as close as the eye of a beloved one, as vast as an ocean, and somewhere between these two measures is a sense of perspective which holds healing in its gentle adjustments. So I invite you to take a moment of dialogue with your own inner self, a dialogue within your own heart. Where do you feel a need to connect? Is it with something larger or with something that's a lot smaller? Where do you feel the need to live in the comfort of smallness, recognizing that not all that needs to be done in this world is yours to do? Take a moment in your own heart for this dialogue. Perhaps this moment is the gift, or perhaps it will come in the next moment, or one tomorrow, or in some day to come. When it comes, please accept and unwrap the gift. For this is how we will be as whole as we can be, and as filled with wonder as this world allows. Thank you.
Today, the kingdom of heaven held a festival for thousands of stars. I went up to that kingdom, knelt down and prayed that the anguish, the killing, the disaster in our poor land would end. Where have you been, little star? I've been looking for you everywhere, out of my window, among the dark clouds. Where have you been, little star? I feel so forlorn, like a small bird lost on a foggy island. It has been raining for nights, late night on the sidewalk. I see the silhouette of lonely red forms. I try to call your image from deep in my consciousness, while the rain and the wind continue to rage. Tonight as I bend over my desk, my head in my two hands, the wind has carried all the clouds away. The sky is clear, the rain has stopped, longing for your call. I'm surprised to see you there, you have returned, little star.
I've been looking at the stars in the distance. I've been looking in my heart for resistance. I've been searching in the self for existence. All alone by myself, reminiscing underneath the Bodhi tree. But it isn't only me, you and I, collective energy. How it's supposed to be. I hope to be the ocean tide with my spirit open wide, standing on a mountaintop, see the world with open eyes.
I was so surprised to know that I'm a part of this. Sunrise, sunset, rain clouds, all of it. The journey of awakening, taking it with one step, one breath. Save all beings till there's none left. Suffering is painful, but I'm still the same fool, searching for the river while I'm swimming in the same pool.
Maybe we can find it, keep the light shining, walking on the path of ancestors behind me. If you could be the person who you are in your heart,
Would you grow a little bit?
or would you play a bigger part?
Love is a paintbrush, life is the biggest art, and I'm still the same kid, wishing on a little star. Love is a paintbrush, life is the biggest art, and I'm still the same kid, wishing on a little star.
Little star, I've been looking for you everywhere, out of my window, among the dark clouds. Where have you been, little star? I feel so forlorn, like a small bird lost on a foggy island. It has been raining for nights, late I'm praying for our homeland. Your voice has reached the stars, transformed to teardrops, trembling in the air. I'm standing deep and true. Countless little stars with diamond strong faith. You are like flowers, blooming everywhere. My little star, you are back home. With tears in my eyes, I call your name and feel the warmth in my heart.
Good morning. I'm Andrew Oswald, a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are he and him. This month is a time for new beginnings. The school year is starting soon, or in some cases already started, for the students and teachers in our congregation. It is also our first service of the month after a much-needed hiatus for our ministers and staff. I feel this new beginning provides us an opportunity as individuals and together as a congregation to connect our spiritual vision with our giving. I found a quote on the UUA website from the Reverend Heather Christensen, which sums up this theme of giving individually and collectively. She says, "Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy." The easiest way to give, if you are joining us remotely, is by going to mduuc.org/give in your web browser. And for those of you in person, you can also give directly to the ushers as you are so moved. All giving is welcome, no matter how big or small. It is another means of connection to this vision. Thank you. And now, let us dedicate our offerings with the words on the screen. The work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
So, I am, let's see, I managed to lose my mic here. So I don't usually preach with this. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I am old enough that one of my first jobs was to take the time to develop film manually. That meant that I would be in a room with only a red light with trays of incredibly noxious chemicals, and I would put the paper under the lens and then expose it to the 3 chemicals in order. And I did that for many years as part of my professional work as a photographer. There are many reasons to be glad that I live in 2023. And one of those is that I'm glad that now if I want to take a picture, I sometimes can just do it with my cell phone. It's not quite as accurate, not quite as detailed, but it's a lot less smelly. So in a moment, what you're going to see is a progression of just small moments from my July and even the first week of August, though most of that was spent in a sort of a prone position. But as you look at those, and then as Julie adds a musical meditation, I invite you to think about just a few moments from your own life, perhaps just from the last week. What would be up here representing your life? Little snapshots of that which gives us meaning. I hope that you were able to think about some small moments from your own life as well. If you didn't, then I invite you to do so in the week coming forward. Just notice where beauty touches you in small ways. And thank you, Julie, for that beautiful meditation. Today's service has a little backstory. You see, every summer when I take off for my summer break, a practice important in ministry because of the 24/7 nature of jobs like mine, which may be fading out, maybe for good reason in the coming years. Usually in my time off and my study time, I set some kind of goal for my time off and my study time that will become part of the structure of my first service back, which is usually around this time in August. For example, 2 years ago, when I drove across country in a van with my 2 dogs for some reason that I'm not quite sure now, it made a lot of sense in COVID, I'm not quite sure. I knew that my service would be about that, and in fact, you suffered through that. Some years it's been about haiku, some years it's been about the spiritual lessons of gardening, a topic which no doubt bears repeating. The problem with this year there were really 2. Number 1, I actually never went on vacation this summer. And number 2, the 1 week that I did take off, I managed to get the newest version of COVID, which is why I'm here with you today, masked. So my report about what I did on my summer vacation is not the stuff of inspiration. Herein lies the rub, except where it is. The truth is that this summer, I was doing what all of us have to do at some time, dealing with life on life's terms, that which could not be foreseen, the unexpected, the unwanted. And in some way, isn't that what meets us every day, more and more in the world in which we live? It's in the news. We have been shocked until we're beyond shocked. A nation that watches as our very right to democracy is debated in compromised courts, as the costs of centuries of environmental degradation begin to mount, as the habitable part of the world shrinks and we all face ethical dilemmas on a daily basis about who deserves what resources in the world. And amid all of this, we have watched distortions of people's size. Some people thinking they're so small, in fact, as small as an ant, which I'm taken to mention because there are some up here with me today, that they feel like they don't have the ability to make a difference. They feel so small, so condensed. And then others, painfully and dangerously, thinking that they are bigger than ethics, bigger than laws, bigger than governments, maybe even bigger than God, whatever that is. And so, I went back and forth the first week of July as I tried to come up with something that could be the topic of this service, because I knew by then that it wasn't likely I would have a very typical summer. At first, I thought it would be a great thing if I made the focus the way that we pay attention to the small details, like you all up here, ants. And because paying attention to small details is a great way of grounding ourselves when life is hard to handle. And in fact, that kind of mindfulness is what I thought I had planned to preach on. However, I discovered, much to my chagrin a couple weeks ago, that what I had actually written up and submitted to the Beacon was about the larger frame and how we look at the larger frame in times of difficulty. Slight shift there. The one thing, though, that I can say, though it was not particularly meditative or pretty, I got a lot of practice on both sides of the equation this summer, finding the joy in the small and remembering that there is a larger picture which helps us put even painful things in perspective. I had lots of opportunity to right-size my views. This summer, I spent a lot of time at work. And in the mornings and the evenings I walked, I took snapshots of small pleasures, what Aaron Nemi Longhurst calls contentments. I took a special pleasure this summer in making meals. It was a time of great solace, trying new recipes that took many hours and allowing myself to fully concentrate on the little acts of chopping and stirring and spreading. The fourth day of my COVID isolation, I actually tried out a recipe for sourdough bread because I was craving something besides broth. And I made 4 amazing, light, flavorful loaves. When eaten with honey, they gave temporary relief from the searing soreness of my throat, and that, let me tell you, was a holy moment. This July, a month that I suspect, I even hope, I will remember as one of the low points in my career, I spent a great deal of time at the copier documenting things, and a complication was that about the second week of July, a rat made its way, an actual rat, made its way into the Gilmartin building and began to live in the copier. The rat would wait until I was alone in the building. And then when I would hit that first button to turn on the machine and it would whir into life, she would shoot out across my feet. I found myself caught in this odd kind of metaphorical relationship with this creature who really added to my innate tendency to procrastinate because I could say to myself, oh my gosh, I'm just not up for that whole rat ejection thing today. I would tell myself at the end of a long, sad work day that, I'll wait till tomorrow when maybe the rat will not be with us. As, until almost the end of her ratty life, for she is, I have to tell you, no longer with us, I was the only one she greeted in this way. I came to feel that she could be coaxed outside and even enlisted others in a mad evening of rolling the copier up to the door and banging on it with broomsticks to get her to leave. Understandably, she thought we were absolutely nuts and dangerous, and she just hunkered down. After we saw her briefly, we didn't see her again. The sense that the world was off was enhanced when, after a year of delay in the delivery of our new copier, which we've been waiting for since last summer, we received a message that, in fact, they were coming right away to pick up the copier. This required us to have long conversations about the ethics of returning a copier with a rat living in it. We actually had to have meetings about this summer, adding to the feeling that the world was just a little bit off. The building is now rat-free. The copier is still with us. We need to right-size our world when life does not go as planned, which, as we are all very familiar with in this post-2020 world, has happened to almost all of us at some point. And some of that which is not planned is very painful. Life will, my friends, break our hearts, break them open and remind us that we are all in some way looking for that homeland that was sung about. Remind us that impermanence is at its core, as the Buddhism I'm always drawn to teaches us. The song from the monks at Plum Village, the one that we just saw, has been a song that has kept me going throughout what was a very difficult year of 2023. The community founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, whose words Linda Russell read as our chalice lighting, during his many decades of exile, speaks to this. It is a community dedicated to releasing people from the pain of false attachments, including to egotistical fantasies and formations. This community has also had to navigate their own attachments after their great leader's death last year, and the words that they sang are those of Thich Nhat Hanh, their great teacher, and the music by one of the monks. It celebrates both the permanence of 40 years of the community and something that their now deceased teacher always encouraged, finding new ways to teach about suffering and the release from suffering. He always told them, and so they did through this song. I love seeing the monks in their brown robes doing the words of that song, and they took their act on tour to the east coast of our nation in the spring. When I wrote to ask permission to use the song, they said sure, and that perhaps we could host them because they'd like to do a West Coast tour next year, which I think would be great. In a world like this, Little practices of noticing the small, balancing beauties do matter. For me, one was hand watering from the rain barrels, waters that I collected during the summer. The practice is embodied like a slow yoga dance or any other physical practice. It brings me more into the world. And as the plants bloom and thrive, especially my redwood tree, which has had an easier summer because of the winter rains, I feel connected to a sense of hope that perhaps somehow we must not forget to act. Secrets and isolation are what we are all too prone to in a world where we feel vulnerable. So many of us are seeking love, which is why we are vulnerable when our trust is violated. Now more than ever, I am glad to be part of a faith where we don't claim to have one truth that fits all, and we don't claim that anyone or any being does. As sad and sorry as my July was, it would have been unbearable if I had needed to believe that it was all part of a grander plan and had to make some kind of complicated calculus out of all of that, or if I believed that I was solely responsible to address it all. That is the stuff of delusion, which leads to the great harm that people can do to one another. AI, those two words together, two letters together, has been in the news for many reasons. Those two letters, though, also form one of the words for love in Japanese. And as Aaron Nimi Longhurst notes, that is the word for not romantic love, but mutual, unshakable love. Not seeking its own satisfaction, rather through giving. And to that, this community has given witness. All of these small things are our access points to the greatest frames. We are meaning-making creatures, and this is something we need, especially when faced with the jagged sides of human existence. To remain balanced in our own view of ourselves, we need to be in a relationship with something larger than ourselves, even if it is just the imperfection of community, or the result can be tragic and dangerous. Throughout the hours this summer, I tried to listen to the words of the hymn, to what the Spirit says do, and all I could hear was bear witness, seek love, and connection. Because in fact, we touch the largest frames of meaning through our willingness to treat each of us as if we are truly deserving of respect. And despite all the flaws in human community, we still have the greatest power, which is to see where mistakes have been made and begin again in love, those of us who are capable of such larger love. In that place where faith meets persistence, the Spirit grows and we let our heart rest in a holy place. You know, sometimes it just seems like there's a rat living in the copier. And we need something to be bigger than we are. And sometimes we just need to pay attention to the very small details that hold us together. Embracing those holy fragments and remembering that we are neither alone nor omnipotent, that we live in a world with ugliness and still find our homeland in beauty. Together in this time when so much is broken, let us always bear witness to the power of the quest for wholeness.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing our closing congregational song, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and color, light, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
The words of our benediction today come from poet laureate Ada Limon. Suppose it's easy to slip into another's green skin. Bury yourself in leaves and wait for a breaking open, a breaking out. I have before been tricked into believing I could be both, an I and the world. The great I of the world is both gaze and gloss, to be swallowed by being seen, a dream, to be made whole, but being not a witness, but witnessed.
we're waiting for the announcement
Yeah,
there.
oh, I just wait for the slide.
Yeah, that was good. I'll get it. Takes a certain touch. I still didn't get it. There we go.